Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something that might sound a little bit weird.
Ooh,
Rereading a book
okay.
can actually be a better experience than reading it the first time.
Interesting.
And get this, our source for this deep dive is a conversation with an AI chatbot.
It's pretty amazing how AI can offer like a really unique perspective on something we think we already know really well.
Right, it's like having this super powered study buddy who's read all the books and can just tell you the most important, interesting points.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that stood out to me was this idea that time and experience are almost like secret ingredients that make rereading so powerful.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not just about knowing the plot.
Right.
It's as we go through life, we gather all this knowledge and experiences, and it's almost like leveling up in a video game.
Oh, okay.
So each time we revisit a book, we're bringing a higher level of understanding
I love
to
that.
the table.
Have you ever noticed how you can walk down the same street 100 times?
Yeah.
And then one day you see a building or a detail that you've never seen before.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
It's like your brain is finally ready to see it.
Yeah. That's exactly what happens with rereading.
Really?
The AI said, imagine looking at a famous painting through a dusty window.
Okay.
The first time you get the basic idea,
Mm-hmm.
but the details are obscured, right?
Right.
But then when you wipe that window clean,
Yeah.
you suddenly see the brushstrokes and the colors and the symbolism that you missed the first time.
That is such a cool image.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how our brains are wired to learn and grow.
Right?
Experts say that when we see something familiar, our brains don't just replay the old memory, but it reevaluates it,
Wow.
integrating it with everything we've learned since then.
So it's almost like our brain is remixing and remastering
Yes.
our understanding of the world.
Yes.
And rereading lets us tap into that process.
I love that.
You know, I remember reading To Kill a Mockingbird in high school and being moved by Scout's innocence.
Mhm.
But I reread it years later after experiencing more of life's complexities.
Mhm.
And I was struck by Atticus Finch's strength
Wow.
in the face of injustice.
That's a great example of how rereading can unlock new layers of meaning.
Yeah,
It's like the book stayed the same,
right.
but you changed. So the conversation between you and the book becomes richer.
Exactly. And it's not even just about our personal growth. The AI pointed out that even finishing a book changes how we understand the earlier parts.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it.
Okay.
Someone who's only read the first 5 chapters of a 10-chapter book
Yeah.
is going to have a very different understanding of that first chapter
Right.
than someone who's finished the whole thing.
Oh, that's so true.
Right.
It's like seeing one piece of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And then seeing the whole picture.
So go.
Suddenly everything clicks.
Right. And that makes me think about some of the tips that the AI shared for getting the most out of rereading.
Like what?
Things like focusing on key sections once we have that full context, or taking notes to capture your thoughts, and talking about the book with other people to get their perspective.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into rereading.
It is amazing how much there is to unpack
I know, right?
with just picking up a familiar book again.
Totally.
I'm so glad you mentioned that magic element because it's really what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
There's this alchemical process that happens when
Yeah.
our current life experiences mix with the words.
Yeah, it's like each reread is a chance to create a blend of meaning that's part the author's intent
Mm-hmm.
and part our own unique perspective at that moment in time.
Yeah.
The AI even brought up how rereading certain books during specific life phases
Okay.
can be really powerful.
Oh, yeah, how a coming-of-age story might hit differently
Yeah,
when you're actually going through a major transition yourself.
exactly.
I remember reading Catcher in the Rye as a teenager and feeling like Holden Caulfield was the only one who understood me. Oh, wow.
But revisiting it in my 20s,
Yeah,
I had so much more sympathy for the adults he was rebelling against.
right. It's like the book becomes a mirror reflecting our own growth.
Yes.
And there's some really interesting cognitive science behind this.
Right.
Studies show that our emotional state impacts how our brain processes information.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So if I'm reading a book when I'm super stressed,
Yeah.
I'm less likely to remember the details.
It's not that you won't remember them, it's that you might remember different parts.
Oh, okay.
You might focus on passages that offer comfort or escape,
Uh-huh.
and then when you reread it in a calmer state of mind,
Yeah.
that's a whole new book unfolds.
Wow. So it's almost like our emotions are highlighting certain words.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a mental highlighter.
Exactly.
That's cool.
And this isn't limited to fiction either.
Okay.
Imagine rereading a history book after traveling to the places that are described.
Oh, yeah.
Or like revisiting a philosophical text.
After like a major life event.
Right.
That changes your perspective on things like love or loss.
Now I'm thinking about all the books I need to reread.
Me too.
It's like a whole new way to like curate my reading experience.
Yeah, like you're your own personal book sommelier.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of curation,
Yeah.
the AI also talked about how sometimes we reread just for the pure enjoyment of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like revisiting an old friend.
Totally.
There are some books I reread just for the comfort and familiarity.
Absolutely. Comfort rereads can be so nourishing.
Yeah.
Especially during times of stress.
Yeah.
It's like wrapping yourself in a cozy blanket of words.
I love that.
Yeah.
But there's this other side of rereading that the AI highlighted.
Okay.
Which is like more about active analysis and digging deeper.
Right. Not just nostalgia,
Yeah.
but really engaging with the text
Yeah.
on a new level.
Like we're graduating from just enjoying the story to
Yeah.
becoming like literary detectives.
Yes.
Looking for clues
Exactly.
we missed before.
And the AI specifically mentioned philosophical texts
Okay.
as being really good for this deeper rereading because they're full of these complex ideas
Right.
that might resonate differently depending on where we are in our lives.
Yeah, like a quote that seems so profound in your 20s
Yeah.
might feel shallow
Right.
or even problematic when you revisit it later on.
And that's where all those rereading strategies we talked about earlier can really come in handy.
Oh, yeah.
Like writing down your thoughts in the margins, highlighting things that stand out,
Okay.
or even creating a mind map
Oh,
to visualize the connections between ideas.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's like taking all those messy thoughts and turning them into like a beautiful web of understanding.
exactly.
And speaking of connections, the AI was also really big on discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about a book with others can totally change how you see it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like having a bunch of different lenses focused on the same text, each revealing something unique.
I always get so many aha moments from hearing how other people interpreted a book,
Me too.
especially one that I thought I knew really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're collectively unlocking the secrets of the book.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's not about finding the one right interpretation,
right.
but it's about appreciating all the different ways a book can resonate with people.
Exactly. And the AI pointed out something really profound in this context.
What's that?
It argued that, like, the ultimate purpose of reading is about exchanging perspectives.
Oh.
Like, we're not just absorbing information,
Uh,
we're engaging in a dialogue
with the author,
with the author,
even if they're not around anymore.
even if they're long gone.
Wow.
And rereading amplifies that dialogue
Yeah.
because we're bringing more of ourselves to the table each time.
It makes me think about how rereading certain books can be like time travel,
Oh,
allowing us to reconnect with past versions of ourselves.
yeah.
It's like having a conversation with your younger self.
Understanding their struggle
Totally.
through the lens of our current wisdom.
It's like we're excavating layers of our own personal history through the books that have shaped us.
Yeah, that's cool.
And what's really amazing is that even as we revisit those stories,
Yeah,
we're still capable of surprising ourselves.
right.
We might notice details we never picked up on before, or connect with characters in ways we couldn't have imagined back then.
It's like we're constantly evolving,
Yeah,
and each reread offers a chance to see how far we've come.
exactly. It's an invitation to rediscover both the book and our own ever-expanding inner landscapes.
This is so inspiring. I'm already thinking about which books I want to revisit
I know, me too.
with this new perspective.
And I bet you'll find that those rereads offer a depth of meaning and enjoyment that you didn't expect.
I can't wait. But before we get too carried away
Yeah.
with planning our next literary adventures,
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about the practical side of things.
Yeah. The AI had some really specific tips for making the most of rereading.
Yes, they did.
I'm eager to delve into those. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. We've talked about like why we reread and all the fascinating ways it connects to our brains and our lives. But now I'm really interested to know like what can we actually do to make rereading even more rewarding?
Well, you're speaking my language.
I love actionable takeaways.
Me too. And our AI friend had some great practical advice.
Perfect. I'm ready.
Okay, first step,
Yeah.
finish the book first
Okay.
before going back to reread certain parts.
Okay.
Because having that full context is key to understanding everything.
It's like watching a movie a second time. You
Exactly.
catch all those things you missed the first time.
Exactly. And that's where the AI's next tip comes in.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to mark up your book.
Oh, interesting.
Highlight, underline, write notes in the margins.
I used to be so against writing in books.
Really?
But I've come to realize that those notes are like a conversation between me and the author, and me and like my past self.
Yeah, like you're creating your own layer of meaning
Yeah,
on top of the text.
I like that.
And there's actually research on this.
Oh, is there?
Studies have shown that active reading like that
Okay.
can really help us remember things.
So it's not just about making the book pretty, it's actually helping us learn.
Exactly.
Cool.
And if you're a visual learner like me,
Yeah.
the AI suggested mind maps
Oh, mind maps. Okay.
to organize the themes and characters and like connections within the book.
I love that.
It's like creating a map of the author's world.
It's like taking all those messy thoughts
Yeah.
and like turning them into a beautiful web of understanding.
Exactly. And speaking of connections,
Yes.
the AI was really big on the power of discussion.
Oh, yeah, like talking about it with other people.
Yeah, it can completely change how you see it.
It's like looking at the book through a bunch of different lenses.
So,
I always have those aha moments when I hear other people's interpretations.
me too. Especially for a book I thought I knew really well.
Right.
It's like we're all unlocking the secrets together.
Yeah, so it's not about finding the one right interpretation.
Right.
It's about appreciating all the different ways a book can resonate with people.
Exactly.
Okay.
That makes me think of a question for you.
Yeah.
With all these layers of meaning,
Yeah.
does it ever feel overwhelming to reread?
You know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing it wrong if I don't have some big revelation?
That's such a good question.
Every time.
And it's important to remember that there's no right or wrong way to reread.
So if I just want to relax and escape,
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
absolutely.
Phew.
Sometimes the most rewarding rereads are the ones where we just let ourselves get swept away by the story.
I think there's this pressure to like overanalyze everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to feel what the book makes you feel.
Totally agree. And even if you're not analyzing every word,
Yeah.
those rereads are still shaping you,
Right.
deepening your connection to the story,
Ugh.
maybe planting seeds for future insights.
Each reread is like adding to our inner library.
Beautifully said. And remember, even if you don't have a revelation every time,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean it was a waste of time.
Right.
Maybe you just needed a reminder of something
Yeah.
or a detail that will click later.
It's like the book is working its magic.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that idea
Okay.
that rereading is about self-discovery and growth.
It's not just about the book.
Right.
It's about what the book helps us discover about ourselves.
And that's a journey worth taking again and again.
So to our listeners,
Yeah.
what book will you choose for your next reread? What world are you ready to rediscover?
I can't wait to hear about your rereading adventures.
And that concludes our deep dive into rereading.
I hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us next time for another deep dive.
Until then, happy reading.